Hey, what is up? It's Kat from Tutor Ally, and it's been a while since I've connected with you guys. Let me tell you, we've been working on some crazy stuff. I don't know if you've known this, but there are multiple projects going on. Well, you probably don't know this. Raid and I have been working on multiple projects in our own lives and for Tutor Ally and for some of our clients. So I just wanted to get on today to take any questions. And so like if this goes well, maybe we can bring this and flourish this into a frequent live stream that happens on a set frequency so that we can answer any questions that you guys might have. I want to keep this sort of Q&A in terms of what's going to bring value to your life, not how do I post an invoice in the GL? You can either take a course for that or like YouTube one of our videos. That's cool. I'm more interested in helping you level up in your life. And I mean, the reason why we're in Oracle is not for the sake of Oracle. Like Oracle itself is a cool technology, yeah, but like really all of us are working in the career of our choice because we ultimately want a better life. And if you don't understand that, I think that you are honestly in denial because you don't live to work, you work to live. So I just want to help you guys do that. We got some questions, and so this first stream might be a little bit short, but you guys, you can submit questions later on. I'll show you how to do that. It's going to be in the comments. But for now, we had a bunch of questions come in from some of our subscribers, and I'm just going to go through these. So the first is, how do I get a job in Oracle or in the Oracle space? Do I have to work for Oracle Corporation? Well, you certainly can work for Oracle. Oracle itself is huge, like massive. There are so many amazing top-notch companies that either run Oracle, or you can work for Oracle, the software vendor, or you can actually work for companies that help other companies implement Oracle. So there's like a lot of different ways like you can get into the Oracle space. I'll share with you how I got into Oracle. I didn't even go to school for Oracle or you can't go to school for Oracle. I was in accounting. I mean, back when I was like 19, 20, I had no clue what I wanted to do, right? And so I just thought it would be a good idea to go into business. And so I went into accounting because whatever company you're in, I mean, they always need accountants, right? So I just thought it would be a versatile thing that you can go into. And it certainly has. Like my career in accounting has brought me to places that I had never even anticipated, even remotely close to going into, so like you never know where you're going to go. Just because you study something, it doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, very few of us, in fact, would be actually doing the thing that we actually went to school for. Mostly everybody ends up doing something else, or they go to school thinking that they want to do this when they grow up, and then they end up hating it, or like they ended up really understanding and experiencing what that job is actually like, or the lifestyle that comes with it. And it's gross. They hate it. And so they either, have this midlife crisis, or like they go back to school and, look for something else. So how do you get a job in Oracle? And so again, to summarize what we've discussed so far, you can it depends on where you are. If you just graduated from high school, the chances of you going into or having a career in Oracle that uses Oracle is actually quite rare, because you do have, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a technology. And so you have to actually have gone to further your education in terms of, how you're going to be using that technology. And so the first thing is, if you're just graduating from high school, you definitely need to further your education, either in business or in accounting or in information technology or computers. Interestingly enough, right, actually just told me this not too long ago, but even if you do go into IT, or like you study IT in college, you actually study, and maybe this has changed, so I don't know, because the last time I was in school was more than 20 years ago. So let me know if this is like new, or you guys have new experiences in school. But from what Raid has told me, even if you study IT, you don't actually get to study the practical applications of Oracle. You don't even get to study like SQL and how it works, like Oracle SQL, and how to apply Oracle SQL to business. You just don't. And so that's why we decided to create this Oracle SQL course for beginners and for people who are not necessarily very technical. Like me, I'm not very technical. And so, but there are a vast array of people whose jobs actually need some sort of element of SQL. What I mean by that is if you're asked to build a report or like find some sort of information from the system, if your company runs Oracle, then it really pays to know where that data resides. Even if it's not even in Oracle. Like I was just helping out a client earlier on this week, and they were using something called Workiva, which is a financial reporting system. And that is like you can build queries, SQL queries from connected databases. I haven't really explored exactly how it works, but that's just another practical use of just knowing SQL. So SQL is just a really good thing to know. Okay, so going back to what I was saying before, I often go in tangents. I'm just really excited to be able to talk to you guys. And so like, I hope you watch this. And, if you have any questions or like any sort of comments, please definitely subscribe to our channel. We put out, we haven't been doing so for the last like month or so. So I apologize for that. But we're going to go into more videos posting in the fall, and just having to do with like, Tutor Ally is, we're a training company, obviously. We put out training for Oracle, obviously, but that's not what I want to talk about because that's flat, right? Like it's like a product. I don't want to talk about a product. I want to talk about how your life can level up because this knowledge that we offer. Sure. Okay, so getting back to how to get a job in Oracle. So first of all, again, as I said, if you are just graduating from high school, then you definitely need to further your education in one of many different areas. And so business is one of them. Accounting is usually a sector in business. Information technology. When I was in school, it was called Management Information Systems. So like the school that I went to has this management. So like within the School of Business, there's this subset called Management Information Systems. And it basically taught you, like it was like more of an applied computer science area that more accurately applied to business. So that's one way you can go. But ultimately, you guys, working for the software vendor, and when I say software vendor, I mean the organization that created Oracle. Obviously, that's Oracle Corporation. Obviously, they're worldwide. I have worked for them before as well. But that's not necessarily that's like maybe the first way that people think about doing when asked, how do I get a job in Oracle? It's actually pretty hard to work for the software vendor. And I dare say, actually, it's almost limiting. Yeah, you get the latest and greatest technology because that's a software vendor, but there are so many more paths that you can take if you don't work for the software vendor. So certainly working for Oracle Corporation is one of those paths that you can try and get into if you want to work in the Oracle space. But secondly, you can actually work for an organization that runs Oracle, okay? And that's certainly how I kind of got into the space. And so I was alluding to this earlier in that the way I got into Oracle wasn't actually through Oracle. I was actually working for the local government here. And back in the day, they were actually implementing a new information system. And it's interesting because I was working in finance at that point. Like I was an AR clerk or a receipts clerk or whatever. So I was applying like cash receipts and, doing that kind of stuff. And I just graduated from school. It was my first 2 years. I don't even think I spent 2 years in finance really at my local government. And I was seconded to this implementation team that consisted of both people who were in the consulting industry that the government contracted to help them with this implementation. And then on the other side, they brought in representatives from who worked at the government. So people like me who worked in finance and to be able to help with the implementation. And so to help train, which was my job, in fact, that's what I started, like, that's how I kind of got into information systems, really, is that like I was a receivables clerk for the government, and I got seconded to this information systems implementation team, and they needed trainers. And so I contributed by training, like learning the new information system. It was AR and billings. So it was like, how do you draft an invoice in that new system? And then how do you maintain receivables in that new system? And that's what I trained. And that's how I got into information systems. And from that point on, you guys, I just realized that I was working for the government. I just realized that I was working with this bunch of people who was essentially doing the same thing that I was, and getting paid way more just because they didn't work at government, and that they were working for different consulting groups at that time. And so I'm like, I want to get a piece of this action. So I eventually left the government and just went to a consulting company that coincidentally contracted me back to the government. Oh. And then that's kind of how I got into information systems. And then from that point on, I went to another consulting company that actually specialized in Oracle. So I was doing PeopleSoft before, back when PeopleSoft was not a part of Oracle. And then that's kind of how I started my Oracle career. So how to get a job in Oracle. So that's the second way. So the first way is to work for the software vendor. The second way is to work for an organization that runs Oracle. And then the third is to work for an organization that helps other organizations implement Oracle. And so this one's a little bit tougher to get into because you have to have had prior experience in implementing Oracle or any information system thereof, because what you're doing in this third path is that you're acting as the expert. And so when somebody hires you to be an expert, you obviously, have to be the expert in that field, right? Otherwise, why are they hiring you? So you can't actually, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it, because if you're just coming out of school, you're a bumbling idiot. You don't know. You're just exploring the workforce, and that's okay. Like, that's exactly what you need to be doing. So you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing everything right. In fact, like just getting out there, getting into the workforce. But I wouldn't necessarily try to be a consultant right off the bat. On that note, you guys, if you're just coming out of school, I wouldn't necessarily even try to be a management trainee. Back in the day in organizations, they used to have these management programs where they would recruit right from universities and colleges, and then they would groom these people to be middle managers. I don't necessarily recommend that, because just like the leadership component of it, you can't be a leader without having experienced being a follower. You have to be a follower first in order to hone your leadership skills, in order to be a leader. So I think you'd feel like an imposter if you're trying to act like this consultant. You've never really had experience doing that thing. You're still learning yourself, right? And we're always going to be in a learning path. That's a given. The flip side of that, you guys, is, I don't know, enough, which is often what people say when you ask them, why don't you be a consultant? You're a subject matter expert. I don't know enough. The other side of the table, you guys, is that you'll never know enough. And so you just have to be confident with what you do know. And if you have been working in that Oracle space for some time, you just have to say, you know what, I can contribute, I can add value in this certain area, perhaps in this industry or niche, or connecting with these particular people in a role or something. So that's sort of the three different ways that you can get into Oracle. Okay, so what's the next question? Do I have to go back to school to get certified? Okay, no. Well, you can. You don't have to, though. I never did. Is sort of an old way to do it, because back in the day, and a lot of people still do this, and I honestly, personally, do what you want, right? Whatever floats your boat. But for me personally, school is expensive, and it's not even a guarantee that once you come out with this big fancy MBA that you'll get a better job, or what do you want? More respect, more pay? That doesn't necessarily come with just automatically getting an MBA or having gone back to school. Do you know what I mean? So Do I have to go back to school? The answer is you can. I don't recommend it. What you need to do though is learn the space, learn the craft. Okay, so there's a ton of different ways you can learn Oracle and learn how to do consulting if that's what you want to go into, or how to be a business analyst without having to go back to college or start an MBA program or whatever have you. You know, there's a lot of, I mean, it's always good to further your education. Don't get me wrong. I have a CPA designation. I'm very, very grateful that I have it because it has opened the doors and it does command a lot of respect. But is it necessary? No, not at all. You just have to be in the right space. You have to know the right area that you want to work in. Say you've been working in finance and it's not in an Oracle company, but you've been working in finance, okay? So what I mean by finance is that you're in an accounting department for some organization. Sure. They may or may not run Oracle, who cares? And then you're like, well, I want to be a business analyst or a functional, this is a technical term, a functional consultant or a functional analyst in Oracle. And what that means, you guys, if you're not familiar with the word functional analyst, it's sort of an industry term for the people who are an expert in how the technology works for business. Okay, so what I mean by that is how the technology works. How do you enter an AP invoice? That is a function. That's a feature of the system that if you are a functional analyst, that's what you can either teach or that's what you need to know to be something like a functional analyst, okay? As opposed to a technical analyst, which is somebody who would be more sort of behind the scenes and work with the tables and the integrations and the API or the database or security. That's sort of the more technical end of it, as opposed to the functional end of it. And so so that's sort of the first sort of differentiation between functional analysts and like different types of analysts. You can be both. Actually, one of the more powerful roles, I suppose, in careers, if you will, in the ERP space, regardless of whether or not it's Oracle or SAP or whatever have you, any sort of ERP, is that it's very powerful to know both sides. Because what you will notice, at least what I've noticed in the last 20 years of my career, is that there are people pick their niches. So if somebody who is a developer is a very technical career, they don't necessarily see the functional side of it. They don't see the business side of it, and they don't see how that technology applies to real life. I think that's honestly a big gap that's missing from most people's careers. And then on the flip side, you got the people who are working in the business, working in the system, and they don't actually see the technical side of it. They might not have to for their jobs, and that's completely fine. But what I'm trying to say is that if you know both sides of it, you've just opened the doors you've literally just opened twice the amount of doors, right? So there is the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. And it's really it's a balance, you guys, whether or not you want to be a specialist or a generalist. What do I recommend? Whatever speaks to you, I think is more important. People often ask me this, is it easier to find a job if you're a specialist? Would you get ahead in your career more quickly if you're a generalist a specialist in an area? And first of all, I actually thought that I wasn't a specialist until I spoke to a developer who actually said that anything Oracle is a specialty. So I guess my answer is, for me personally, I would rather be a specialist instead of trying to be everything to everyone. I think that's hard. It's wicked hard. And especially in the IT industry, stuff gets out of date super fast, right? And as we get further into the future, it gets out of date faster than how it used to be, right? It's almost exponential. So I would recommend, it's actually, for me personally, it's easier to pick your niche and to go with it. That way there's a smaller amount of information that you have to keep on top of. And then you can call yourself an expert in that field because that's what you're specializing in. You get what I'm saying? So going back to the question, do I have to go back to school? The answer is no. You don't have to go back to formal school, but you do have to know your space. So you have to get knowledge in your space. Do you have to have a certificate that proves that you have that knowledge? Proving your knowledge, actually, there's two ways to do it. Well, three. Either you can have a certificate that is on your resume saying, I went through this training, I'm now certified, I'm an Oracle certified professional, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's one way. And the second way is to prove it out on your experience in your resume. Like in the experience section in your resume, you can say, I did this for this company, and this was my role, and this was the technology, and this was the value that I brought to the company. That is the second way. And then the third way is volunteer experience, right? And so even if you don't have a job in Oracle you're paid for, if you, for example, interned at, some firm, you can put that down on your resume. The most powerful, you guys, is the experience piece, because that actually proves that you are tried, tested, and true. Even if you went to, take this online course, or even if you had gone back to school and taken this Oracle certification or whatever, or like an MBA, if you have no experience, you kind of just look like an academic. You have the knowledge, but you might not know how to apply it. And really, if it were me and I was trying to hire somebody, if I had somebody who had all this schooling but no experience, and somebody who had less school but had a bunch of experience, I would 100% grab the person who has that experience first before even looking at the person who just has that school. Do you know what I'm saying? So you do have to have the knowledge. There's a lot of different ways to get it, you guys. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to prove it as a certification on your resume. You can take a bunch of courses, and even you can list those courses on your resume. That's cool too. You can even look at YouTube videos and, gain the knowledge that way. But I think that putting my training hat on, you guys, passively watching something is hard to learn something. You really just you do have to dive in and experience it for yourself. You have to be able to have helped somebody implement Oracle, or helped somebody through this feature, do something in Oracle. And it makes a ton of difference. With any of our courses that we provide, we understand that. And so it's not just a bunch of training videos that you just sit back and you watch, because first of all, you'll tune out in 5 seconds, because no, that's not true. The average attention span for anybody is now like 8 seconds. So you got 8 seconds before you tune out. But with any of our courses, we always include a practice instance, because you have to practice. You have to have hands-on experience for what you're learning, right? So do I have to go back to school? No, but you have to know the knowledge. And not only know, you have to have practiced it. Okay, next. What do I take in school? So I think I kind of covered that. What sort of jobs are there in the Oracle space if I wanted to go into it? I feel like I kind of touched on this a little bit when I talked about the consultation bit. So that's certainly one path. You can certainly work for an organization that runs Oracle, and think of all of the roles that they need in both their IT department and their finance. And so what I'm speaking from, you guys, is certainly from the ERP standpoint, in that IT is huge, right? And so we really have to scope it down. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that if you're going to find a job within that area, then you're kind of looking in the finance area, definitely, or you're looking in the IT area for Oracle, like supporting that system, okay, whether or not it's Oracle or anything. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to stop it here because people are coming home now, and so I'm not alone anymore, and so there's going to be lots of noise going on. I'll do another session if you guys got value out of this, and place a comment below, subscribe to our channel, like our videos, dudes. All right, signing out. Have a great weekend.